All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I will go ahead and call our special council meeting and land use workshop to order. And that was item number one. Item number two,
Make a motion, we go into executive session, discussions of negotiations incident to the proposed contractual agreements related to the Nash Nexton Development Agreement. Discussions of negotiations incident to the proposed sale of the town-owned former Park and Ride property at Gum Street and Berlin G. Myers Parkway. And discussion of negotiations incident to the contractual agreements related to the town public safety code.
Second,
all right, motion in the second. I need to repeat that.
please.
Okay, for contractual matters related to discussions of negotiations incident to proposed contractual arrangements related to Nash Nexon Development Agreement, discussion of negotiations incident to the proposed sale of town-owned former Park and Ride property at Gum Street and Berlin Myers Parkway, and discussion of negotiations incident to contractual arrangements related to the town public safety complex. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are in executive session. Okay.
Move to come out of executive session.
Second.
All right, motion and a second to come out of executive session. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. We are out of executive session. Mr. Parker.
Thank you, Mayor. Council met in executive session to have discussions of negotiations, instant proposal, contractual arrangements related to the Nash Nexton Development Agreement. No action was taken on that matter. Discussion of negotiations, incident proposed sale of the town-owned Rama Park and Ride property, Gum Street and Berlin G. Myers. No action was taken on that matter. And lastly, there was discussion and negotiations, incident, contractual arrangement related to the town public safety complex. No action was taken on that matter.
All right, thank you, Mr. Parker.
First, you have an ordinance authorizing the execution, delivery, and performance of a lease purchase agreement and other documents relating to the lease purchase financing of certain vehicles and equipment in an aggregate principal amount of not exceeding $2,275,000 and other matters relating thereto, request from the finance department.
I'll make a motion. We approve that.
Second.
All right, motion and a second to approve the request. Any discussion?
But
Go ahead.
I was gonna add, give some summary of this one. What was it?
Yeah, we meant to get this on to last month's or this month's council meeting agenda. This is the documentation that we need to move forward with the lease purchase for the new round of capital, just like we did last year. Remember, we put $2 million into the budget for capital, rolling stock and other things like the building at Public Works. So this is just paperwork and your authorization to move forward with that. The additional $200,000 is money that we have, we did not issue last year that we were able to carry over until this year.
Okay.
So we have this money in our checkbook.
We will,
It's budgeted.
we will. Yes, yeah, this is budget. Yeah.
All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Number 4, discuss and take desired action on the listed items from the Unified Development Ordinance following the legal procedure of amending UDO.
I'll kind of just briefly discuss each of these, and any questions or comments you'll have. So first one, item H, chapter 2, lot coverage and impervious surface. This is something that's come up a couple of times with, particularly with churches in the downtown area that are under the GR2 zoning district. Churches are growing and looking to either add buildings or additional parking and are having trouble with the impervious surface allowance because it's only 30% in GR2. So what we are looking to do is to make a simple change in the conventional district standards chart to add a note 10 under maximum lot coverage. And that note will just read for religious institutions and educational campuses and residential districts, the maximum lot coverage shall be 50%. That's
And let me say before y'all start talking about that, what we want to do is present to you these items that are definite suggestions that we have received from applicants all and staff of the UDO. These are things that we want to ask you to decide on whether to move forward to the Planning Commission for its review and then eventual kicking back to you one way or the other. So these are things we definitely think could improve our development approval process and eliminate some obstacles. So that's what these first 4 or 5 items are under 4.
These are reoccurring sticking points, friction points with our
Correct.
community members and the UDO itself.
Correct.
Yes.
I like that change, but I'd like to also add, for everyone's consideration, that the impervious area for all this residential district, GR2, 3, and 5 should be 40%,
right now, it's 30.
30, and 35. 30 is just 2. If you have a half-acre lot with a house on it, 30% is just not enough.
Yeah.
And all the engineering calculations were impervious area, it's assumed at 40%.
Everything else seems to be 65%
Yeah.
and 80%, so.
So I would like for all residents to be 40%. I would also entertain 35% across the board, but 30 is not enough.
Well, it's interesting, you know, through the vision planning process, housing opportunities and ADUs to kind of help with housing affordability and infill development may be better attained through a 40% lot coverage area. So it kind of works hand in hand.
I mean, should it be more than that if we're,
The one thing that concerns me about that is that most of the area where we have GR2 does not have stormwater management. Because it was the historical area of town. So if we increase that impervious surface, we may be leading to some additional flooding in that area. Because it was not accounted for.
You understood, but generally speaking, let's say take the rational formula, for example. We
Get engineering on us.
Right. Yeah, so I'm not just making up for it, exact, 30% is what's assumed for residential districts.
Correct, yeah.
When you're doing design,
About
engineering
business.
calculations less than, say, 5 acres, it's assumed at 40%.
I will say that, we really don't we don't run into that as often, at least in the really true GR2 lots. They're usually larger, so we don't run into that. Just to throw that out.
I've run into it quite a bit. In fact, I've got clients who are talking about having to tear up an existing driveway just to get below that 30%, and that seems silly to me to tear up existing driveways just so you can build an ADU or then bring it back in as gravel, which we all know at some point they're gonna
pave it.
pave it anyway. I mean, so.
And I will say, like, this goes into, because I've spent quite a bit of time reviewing our future land use map and comprehensive plan. And what we are looking at, the several things added to our comprehensive plan actually follows more of what is being said with infill development, the missing middle. And our map has changed a little bit compared to what it was as well with some of our, the neighborhoods, suburban mixed, like the way residential is being viewed. So I think this makes sense if we're going to have the land use map as it is, because we've added more, changed the residential categories around some.
Sorry, you go ahead first, sir.
Just in my mind, and we already have a flooding problem. And we are going to lessen pervious property and then add a building.
Well,
Are we giving our future away for something now?
so changes can be made elsewhere in DMX and UCMX, we allow 100% coverage, which to me is ridiculous. So why don't we increase residential to 35 or 40% and decrease DMX and UMX to 80%? Similar
And then you
to
can't rebuild downtown.
Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't have Bon Air Park.
Yeah, you wouldn't have any of that if you took away that 100%.
You could even decrease it to 90% or, I mean. They're not.
That's the reason why, I mean, maybe UCMX.
No one's gonna reach it.
So you can't
Nobody's reaching.
rebuild downtown if you take away that 100% from
Right.
UCMX.
But you're going to have to do some kind, if you redevelop a block that's in downtown mixed use, you're going to have to provide some stormwater detention anyway. You're not going to attain 100%. Unless it's right now 100% already.
A lot of them are using underground detention so that they can cover the lot.
Mhm.
LI and HI is at 80%.
So just to clarify the process, you're bringing to us things that have been friction points with our UDO to look for guidance. If we were to say, hey, this is what we suggest, then these recommendations would go through the planning commission and then come back to us for 2 readings, correct?
Correct.
So if we want to initiate some level of discussion with that, that we still have to follow the process, but I think it's worth discussing.
I would just ask if we could separate just the request that we have out from the general residential, just because we do have a project that's currently going through the process right now that would benefit, I mean, they can't do it without this increase.
But I think that's.
Yeah. To get,
Well done.
dragged down with something else, because they are two very different things, you're talking about every residence in the historic district versus one, a couple
And the
churches.
commission would make changes as they want, we can.
But
That's why we're.
let me make sure I understand what you're asking for, Rebecca. Is, Becca, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Separate questions.
Another bullet point.
Correct.
So,
Yeah.
11,
Right.
number of
Rather than-
basically, that's fine.
Rather than this change and this change together and they are mutually exclusive.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
And I would also think that maybe conversation with our engineering department would be worth having. I don't know if you want their input.
When you say you
On
want
the
stormwater
or not.
and historic, so what you referring just to?
It's welcome.
I'm just referring to the fact that when most of the historic district was developed, stormwater requirements were not, did not exist.
So I like what Matt said, specifically, like in the comprehensive plan, we're talking about we're adding this whole missing middle section to allow for townhomes and duplexes and triplexes and increased density in the areas known as neighborhood residential, suburban residential, and mixed density neighborhood, all downtown Somerville throughout several of our districts. If we're adding this to our comprehensive plan and saying that we're wanting this, I don't see how we add that and allow for that if we don't increase our impervious lot.
But those uses aren't allowed in GR2, GR3, or GR. Those are only allowed in other zoning districts that have a larger impervious surface allowance already.
Currently, but with our comprehensive plan, those are talked about in the map areas to be allowed. In this new map areas, it specifically says that, and it specifically calls it neighborhood residential, suburban residential, and mixed density neighborhood for the missing middle. It specifically says that.
I don't think that's typically what's being requested in the future on this map.
No, in the comprehensive plan, it says it, not on the map, but it says it in the comprehensive plan, it references that missing middle for those areas specifically, like it definitely does.
I can pass these out now if you want. These are the current descriptions we have, if you'd like. Storm age related.
Pass them out. Come on.
If we're talking
We got
about,
them now. Let's go. Good discussion.
I'm
just supporting what Matt.
I understand that, but I guess I want to make sure that we're.
Thank you.
Are you suggesting that? So what we've done with this list of 5 items is independent of any potential changes that you may make to the land use map or the comp plan at all.
Have any proposed changes, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm saying that I agree with, I think we have to consider all of this. If this is all just discussion, I'm not proposing anything right now, I'm just talking, but I think if we're looking at updating our comprehensive plan and our map, and there are some changes to it compared to the old, I've noted them here, but it makes sense that what we're looking to do, all of us that we're talking about today in these chapters, I hate for us to approve a comprehensive land use map and plan, and then what we're changing in the UDO or proposing to change doesn't actually match the comprehensive plan, and then we're back here again
So you're asserting that this,
I think it would.
that's suggested change supports what is being proposed. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Okay.
If we, in the discussions with engineering, have identified areas that are significantly having issues with flooding, we have a overlay that is in the just north of Highway 78 on the east side that you have to overcompensate.
There's that
Drainage.
Simmons Street overlay.
Yeah, yeah. If we have something like that, maybe we can identify those hot spots and have a different. But
Well, I also think
not
that
aware of anything.
you can have,
Presley.
engineering staff can come, they can make, they're gonna review these and they can make a report to the planning commission as well. Or if they don't, as a matter of course, we need to ask them to do that so that planning commission can take that into consideration during their discussions.
Right.
One part that kind of doesn't get looked at is the Oak Brook area where Big Lots is. And Old Trolley Road up to where Park Silo is, Travelers Boulevard. And that whole area in there, I mean, Old Trolley Road gets impassable. I mean, I've got a big truck and it comes up there running boards. So, and everything that y'all were talking about goes that way. And a river can only handle so much. So regardless where it goes up here, it all goes there.
Well, maybe we need to look at all of the stormwater maps and to confirm all of that. And have experts in that area and discuss that, because I'm not an expert in that area.
Yeah, we can't even get emergency equipment across the bridge during the flood. By design.
Oh, that's the bridge too low. And they knew the bridge too low.
Yeah, it wasn't a bridge,
Yeah.
it's culvert extension.
But, yeah, right.
Right, it was supposed to be a bridge and it's supposed to be higher than what it is, and they reduced it for cost.
Yeah.
And now,
I had to lower it to make it a spillway,
Really.
and it's failed 4 times.
Yeah.
Right. All right, so guidance to staff on their request for lot coverage area. We would want, I believe, based on this discussion, to move forward the change for churches and education, religious, not churches, but religious and educational centers to 50%. Go ahead and move that forward to the planning commission, as well as a recommendation to modify the residential to
40%.
40%. Does that need to be in the form of a motion?
Let's do both.
Because we're sending it to the.
Yeah, let's do those in the forms of a motion, please.
All right.
Okay,
So moved. Yeah, yeah. We had the form of a motion.
No, it's
separate motions.
yeah, let's do separate motions.
All right.
So I'll make a motion that we accept staff's recommendation to increase church and educational facilities in residential districts up to 50% impervious area.
Second.
Motion in the second. Any discussion more on that matter?
Education facilities, would that include daycares or just schools?
Educational campuses, it's the definition of educational campuses in the UDO, do you have the UDO?
Fresh pot.
But the problem we're trying to solve right now is a church.
Correct.
Right.
But
We all gone
we
into
do
it
have
with
multiple
education.
school district, schools in GR2 as well, and so that was why I also included educational campuses.
Would you like me to read the definition?
Yes,
Educational campus, yes.
Educational campus, a separate facility or campus of buildings for elementary, secondary, post-secondary, technical and vocational education in a dedicated facilities as a standalone building or as a part of a campus. Includes business, secretarial, vocational school, computers and electronics school, driver education school, establishments providing courses by mail, language school, professional school, e.g. law, medicine, etc. Religious ministry training facilities, technical colleges, elementary, middle, and junior high schools, secondary and high schools, and facilities that provide any combination of those levels. Satellite programs offered in multi-tenant structures are considered professional offices.
So those are currently what lot coverage, those educational campuses,
It depends on whatever zoning district they're in.
right? Okay, that's.
Most of our educational campus or facilities that have been built within the last couple of years are not in the immediate downtown area or in general residential zones. As
And
churches are,
Most of them are zoned public lands now as well.
Right, yeah.
However, this is just in case it comes up, some of the religious institutions also have educational campuses associated with them, so just to cover both potential uses.
Cause, for schools, I know public lands, it says there's not a maximum lot coverage, it's just whatever's approved by council. Is there not a process where educational campuses, I guess they could be private and not public, so that's why they would not all go to public lands. I was working that out in my head as I was speaking it, okay.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. So we'll see that in the future after it goes through the planning commission. All right, do you have another motion, sir?
Yes, sir. I'd like to make a motion to amend table 2.7 conventional district standards to read maximum lot coverage for GR2, GR3, and GR5 to be 40% of the lot area.
Second that.
I would also like to make a change that the front setback for GR5 be increased from 25 feet to 30 feet.
And that's a GR5.
GR5, yes, it is. Reason being for the front setback, and the 25-foot setback, you can't even fit 2 cars in the driveway. Head to tail, without encroaching on the sidewalk or the curb.
What would that do to some more?
What was that?
Smaller
It's
lots?
gonna make a lot of.
Yeah,
properties not-
yeah.
Yeah, I do not second that part, if I may, I'd second the first part.
You want to do it in 2 sections then?
Or we could do it, because either way we got it.
That's not a hill I'm willing to die on, so. I make a motion. Some hills I'm willing to fight on, that, you know, I'll make a motion that we amend over 2.7 conventional district standards to read the maximum lot coverage for GR2, GR3, and GR5 to be 40% of the total lot area.
I'll second that.
All right, any other discussion, council, on that motion and second? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
All right, the next one, all have a staple ones or on each of these proposed changes. Is regarding ADUs, versus accessory structure max size. This is an issue we've been dealing with in a number of different properties. Currently an ADU is based off of, it shall be no more than 50% of the gross floor area of the primary building. And that's the total ADU, so if it's a, apartment above a garage, it counts the garage space as part of the, square footage. So it's looking at, difficult for a number of folks to be able to actually do the ADU they prefer to do. So basically, we're proposing to change it to the same way it reads for the footprint of an accessory structure for lots up to half an acre in size, which is that the ADU's footprint shall be no more than 50% of the footprint of the primary building. It's also easier for folks to understand.
It's a whole lot easier to calculate.
So the verbiage would be consistent.
Correct, and then also just clarifying in the accessory structures. For the lots that are greater than half an acre, what it currently says is there's no size restriction based on the primary dwelling, but the structure must be at least 50 feet from any property line. Just clarifying that if the footprint is over, and that's only if the footprint is over 50% of the gross area. So that 50-foot setback is only if it's over that 50%. Otherwise, it does not have to be 50 feet.
Okay.
Because that's been confusing for folks as well.
These look like good clarity.
That was the intent originally,
This
is
is
to
missing.
clear in the.
Yeah, yeah.
Change.
Same. Yeah. Okay,
I move for approval of these staff recommendations.
Second,
all right, motion and second to approve. Any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
The next one is regarding restaurants and general commercial in the NMX zoning. This has come up another number of times with potential rezonings to NMX, particularly the restaurants. How much of a negative impact they can have on adjacent residential properties. And so there's two options here for restaurants. One is basically if the property is adjacent to a residentially zoned property, including multifamily or a mobile home park, or to a residential use, not including apartments or condos, a restaurant use is just straight out prohibited. The other option is making it a conditional use. It's, adjacent to a residentially zoned property or residential use. And the proposed conditions, that I have in here and open to any suggestions, or this is really a draft. The sale of alcoholic beverages prohibited. Any outdoor seating is only permitted to have entertainment in the form of an acoustic, unamplified guitar or other similar interests, and or televisions without the aid of microphones. Additional speakers or other amplification and no other outside loudspeakers permitted. Any outdoor seating shall be delineated with railings, ornamental walls, landscaping, or other suitable features that are a minimum of 3 feet tall. Hours of operation shall not extend beyond 9 p.m. Service areas are screened by a planting screen in addition to a built enclosure. And adequate provisions are made for access and traffic safety. Yes, I haven't either, or either you choose just to prohibit them outright, or you allow them within these conditions.
Right.
When you have adjacent, the property is adjacent to residentially zoned, would that be only, could it be across the street or could it be shared? Oh, okay, just wanted.
Should we change that language to eliminate that ambiguity to contiguous?
Yeah.
Adjacent comes into play
Yeah.
even in annexation cases sometimes
Right.
where that's what happened in North Charleston was their annexation adjacent to
That's what I was.
existing property.
That's just a budding.
Yeah.
A budding,
Yeah.
that's like literally next door. Because continuous, we use that like to cross streets as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
budding line.
The property shares a.
Yeah.
Property line, that's a shared. property. So there's.
Do we, let's keep going down that rabbit hole and I'll answer. That does is a slave stuff. Yes, is there? Is point to point abutting? Is a corner to corner abutting? Or is should there be some overlap of property lines? And if property line overlaps by a foot, is that abutting? In the technical definition, yes. I'm just
So we're
causing problems.
So we're just talking about restaurants.
Correct.
And then
Correct.
the easy thing is just say no restaurants in MX.
What's that?
Yeah, I mean, that's the easy thing, but then you can't have a coffee shop, can't have a, we have, I think we do have some existing coffee shops and such in NMX, so. I mean, there are some restaurants that really, that operate during the day and may not have that much of an impact on residential property because they primarily operate while residents aren't home. But that was the thought process behind including or just meeting these conditions.
I think I like the or.
Can I ask a question? So if this chart here. And if we approve this, when does this go into effect? This map, the new map? And these. If we approved it, is it something that goes into effect immediately right then?
It doesn't rezone.
That is something that is used when folks request rezoning, or should y'all wish to rezone an area, you would use the
Map.
future land use map as your guide to what to rezone it to, but it does not impact existing zoning.
Right, I'm just saying, so if because there's several, I wish there was like a matrix or something that kind of went from what these new definitions or verbiages are in the map versus what our UDO, because like we have neighborhood mixed use, downtown mixed use, UCMX. There's downtown transition, there's commercial mixed use, there's, different mixed use, there's several different verbiages of definitions that I'm not sure where they would fit into these. So if somebody said,
Multiple zoning districts could fit into those. That's why those are future land uses, not zoning districts, because multiple zoning districts could fit within a number of those different land uses.
Jesse,
Yeah.
we purposely did not do that, because oftentimes when we go through the future land use process, people think, well, you're rezoning my land. We're like, this is just future land use map. This is a guidance. So, we intentionally did not do that. We can do that sort of matrix like internally, and we have done that. But as far as like presenting it, it just makes it seem like, oh, wait, you're rezoning my property. We're like, no, we're trying to like remove that confusion. So that's why we typically when we go to the public with these future land use maps and we do the workshop and do the open houses, we do just present the future land use map and explain why we chose to make them a little bit more vague, and that's something that I'll get into a little bit later. But the one of the main components of the future land use is it guides kind of the vision of that area, and that area, how you implement that vision is through zoning, whether it's 4 different zones in one future land use map, or it's maybe they do mimic each other, but we try to provide the town with that flexibility by not having a 1-for-1.
I understand. Doesn't a planning commission use a future land use map to determine if they're going to rezone a property or not too, as one of these rezonings? I mean, isn't that what the planning commission does?
Definitely.
So it makes sense to kind of understand what's happening between the two. I feel like,
To answer your first question, y'all can set an effective date on these changes at your leisure. You decide. If that's what a majority of council wants to do, then you can set that date.
But these changes still have to go through the planning commission and come back to us for these readings. So we have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's some time.
The future land use map, what's being proposed does not change the zoning of the property.
no, I understand that, but it does determine what the future zoning may be based on a planning commission using that document.
Potentially, should someone wish to change the zoning, or should the town itself wish to change the zoning.
Right. And if we deny someone a change zoning and our comprehensive plan and land use map calls for it, then we could be sued. I mean, I've heard that.
We've rezoned property now that's in the other side, we're going the other way.
Right, so, and I know, and it's been a discussion that we need to be careful with that, so I would think that we should just keep that in mind.
Anybody can and does sue us every week for any number of things. So you can't litigate proof your ordinances.
Council, what do you think about any recommendations?
Just one
Go to
question.
the-
Right here, specifically the northeast side of town where we've had some restaurants, and how much of that district is left that's zone residential over in that area? Do you know? Up your head? I haven't been in the map in a while, so I'm just curious about that.
Like you're talking about like along 70,
East or north?
east or north, that area.
The map that I have, connected to the overlays and everyone should have it. That shows our zoning,
Okay,
and then it has a legend at the bottom.
yeah,
EMX is most.
so all that,
So most of that, yeah.
there's no more really residential over there anyway.
There's a
GR.
few, but not some.
Not the
That's
rest.
what-
But.
I knew there was some
But
residential.
this will say or to a residential use, so maybe.
Oh, but so the residences still there. I just wonder what how it impact existing because just understand that we don't. They just become non-conforming, but so on and so
But
forth.
should they propose to expand it?
Right. Mhm. Yeah.
You know, I'd like to, since we're looking at restaurant and NMX, I'd like to,
That's just in it, okay.
Interesting.
Yes,
yeah,
it would even impact it.
I'd like to also consider removing from NMX the permitted use, because we've got restaurants, you know, permitted, and we're looking to change that, but to remove a permitted use of cemeteries, cultural facilities, community facilities, educational campus and daycares. As well, commercial childcare as well from that. I think the other uses, gardens and farmers market, roadside stands, parks and playgrounds, recreation facilities, even, I think those fit neighborhood mixed use, but some of these others like commercial educational campuses and commercial childcare and I don't believe fits an and MX use.
On the vision plan, we had a significant gap in childcare opportunities. I would hate to limit where those could be placed based on the feedback we received during the
A
vision plan.
specific impact that you feel those types of businesses have that doesn't fit within neighborhood mixed use? I mean, cemeteries and those are allowed in pretty much any zoning district, even residential, so.
Well, it says it's conditional and residential. Well, a community facility, a cultural facility, even a government facility, I don't feel like fits a neighborhood mixed use. I do feel like parks, and playgrounds. I feel like a recreation facility does. I feel like a church should go anywhere, could be able to go anywhere.
Church has to be allowed anyway.
Oh, yeah, I'm just going down the chart reading.
Most churches do have cemeteries too.
I was gonna say, a lot of churches have cemeteries. I mean,
well, old ones, I think have, yeah.
Well, I was gonna say,
Going back to restaurants, if I may, Mayor.
well, I was gonna say, let's do the recommendation and then if we can do a side discussion.
Hang-ups of rezoning some properties that have just gone up, as it has been a restaurant going in that neighborhood mixed use district. Because I mean, restaurants at the end of the day, as they stand, and normal restaurants that are downtown mixed use, they have a pretty big impact on the surrounding area, so that's. I would be against it in that sense, but with going to about the coffee shops and things like that, they could with ordinance for a neighborhood, and it may be more fitting and less, definitely less impactful on the neighborhood, would guide me towards the or. So I think that's where I am on that.
In the or, we still have a choice.
Right.
I mean, I know that I put, adequate provisions are made for access and traffic safety. I can look at specific requirements for parking, that type of thing. I
That would be
didn't put that in
right.
specifically because I.
Yeah.
There were lots of different ways that people address that, and I wasn't sure if that was the thing that wanted to be addressed, but
I personally like the first option better. I do feel like that, if you're right next to a residentially zoned property and you put in a restaurant, you end up having people parking on your residential property, and you I think it makes it simpler, easier, and you avoid upsetting a lot of people if you don't have a restaurant right there. It seems like they could, normally in neighborhood mixed use, you could go just a couple parcels down and you're in DMX, or you're not next to a residential even, and NMX.
If you had a good our root program, you could control that real quick.
Then,
yeah, I mean, I
and
think
I'm okay with
what
that
the
too.
concern with the prohibiting it outright is, I would like to look and see how many restaurants we have currently in NMX
Mhm.
adjacent to residential. Charlie Road, some of that is NMX and it's adjacent to residential in the rear. So I would like to look at that just to see what impact that would have to.
Could you qualify it in some way, like if you have to install a grease trap as a part of being a restaurant?
You have to install a grease trap if you're just.
Even if-
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah, okay.
If you're doing non-grease laden cooking.
Yeah. You're not slide.
Watch your fish.
You don't have a hood system.
So yeah, even Charlie Road is NMX.
Not all, but parts of it are.
Some is UCMX, right?
Oh, it's a mix.
Yeah.
But like I said, if we are
Is this right?
considering prohibiting it outright adjacent to residential, I'd like to see what that impact would be to prohibit it outright.
Does anybody want to make a motion, or do we want to discuss this at a future time before we send it to the planning commission?
I'll make a motion that we approve the or.
Okay,
Send it to planning commission.
Which or?
The bottom piece. And then we can make changes to that later too.
Okay.
As we go back through.
Yeah.
Second now, sorry.
all right. We have a motion and a second to do the or, which is allow it under those bulleted conditions. Of course, this goes to the planning commission, then we have 2 readings as well.
Okay.
We'll have more clarification and discussion. Any other discussion?
Do we want
I have a quick question.
exceptions to be approved by council or by staff?
So if it's a conditional use, that you can't approve exceptions.
Yeah.
It is a condition of the use. So if they can't meet the conditions, they can't have it.
Yes. Good clarification. Yes, ma'am.
Do have one question. Do y'all want me to look at something specific to parking, adding a condition specific to parking?
I think,
Sounds like that's one of the main concerns.
I think that's very important.
Yeah, this will give us a.
And
chance to
neighborhood
hear
mixed
from
use.
The public as well.
All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Right, similar to this, we looked at it for general commercial. There's a lot of things that fall under general commercial, pretty much any type of retail, but also like convenience stores, that type of thing. So we were thinking of this more in terms of convenience stores because those can be more impactful for adjacent residential uses because of the amount of traffic they generate and the time of day they generate traffic, which is generally later at night or early in the morning, it seems to be. So this is very similar, either prohibiting convenience store adjacent to residential or adding certain conditions.
Let me ask you, in our UDO, we specifically have gas fueling station separate from, like, I think convenience store is listed separate, right?
Convenience stores are part of general commercial.
Right. So can a convenience store not be sell gas though? Right? I mean, it can, I know it can, but the way y'all classify it now, you can have a convenience store right now in NMX?
Correct.
And where is that? Which item is that?
General commercial,
No, I'm talking about NMX, because I'm not seeing,
general commercial.
okay, so will you show me then on this chart where that would be?
See,
Under
General commercial.
So
NMX is conditional, the existing condition that the tenant space per building is that maximum tenant space per building is 5,000.
it's still conditional though, it's not permitted.
So the only condition is based on the size of the building,
Listen.
not on the use.
It's much better.
So the following existing condition already applies is that the maximum square footage per building is 5,000 square feet.
There's a lot of, all kinds of commercial all the way along Old Valley Road, up against, almost all of them are up against the neighborhood, and there's a 6-foot fence. I have heard no problem. And as long as the business maintains the fence, everything good, and that's a lot of people to not get any complaints from.
Can you tell me where, in here, all of the allowable uses under general commercial? Like, what is everything under general commercial?
I can read it.
General commercial, stores and shops intended to serve as destination retail, convenience shopping, and provision of general services. Examples of these stores, lines of merchandise and services include art galleries, retail, art supplies, including framing services, books, magazines, and newspapers, cameras and photographic supplies, clothing, shoes, and accessories, collectibles, cards, coins, comics, stamps, etc., drugstores and pharmacies, dry goods, fabrics and sewing supplies, furniture and appliance stores, hobby materials, home and office electronics, jewelry, luggage and leather goods, musical instruments, neighborhood markets, parts, accessories, small wares, grocery stores, specialty shops, sporting goods and equipment, stationery, toys and games, variety stores, videos, DVDs, records, and CDs, including rental stores, may include sales of materials produced on the premise.
So that's a lot of different things. So if we're looking to change restaurant, that's a lot of uses right now that we're saying conditionally, not permitted, but conditionally can go in NMX, but this is the only limitation to that conditional use.
Currently, yes.
Then I would say that should be expanded upon.
Would it be crazy to change that definition to if they have a business license or paid commercial tax?
Well, they
No.
have to.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, but
I
there's,
like that.
because there's a lot of stuff
Basically,
not in there too.
yeah, I mean, general commercial is your catch-all, so you don't have to list 5,000 different uses.
So close.
So there's no restriction on parking. They can be right next to a residential house. There's no restriction for all of that on parking or anything.
There are requirements, yeah, there are like from a general residential zone to a GB, that's like a 30-foot.
To NMX, it's a 15-foot buffer. Yeah, I mean, so they still have to meet all our other requirements. This is just, do y'all want to add additional conditions for a convenience store, or do you not care, basically?
I don't care.
Are we getting issues with that, Jessica?
It was something that had been brought up as
Yeah.
a potential concern.
It takes me back to when they built the McDonald's on Main Street and it was gonna destroy the city.
Well, that's not next to NMX.
Well, if you look at the order, there, what Jesse's proposing is to prohibit, if you continue to allow them. Prohibit alcohol beverage sales, tobacco alternative sales, limit hours of operation. A few more restrictions on convenience stores.
Didn't he eliminate that already and in that, the CBD type stores? We
eliminated what is defined as a CBD store.
But we eliminated that from DMX, didn't we?
It was already not allowed in NMX, but.
Yeah,
But you can still sell vapes and CBD and all that at a convenience store.
right.
As long as it's not over a certain percentage of what you
And-
sell.
And I think closing at 9 o'clock takes a lot of the convenience out of it.
It just then becomes it's just a. So
No longer can be.
A difficult. I think convenience stores should be eliminated from NMX.
So there's put a lot of.
Isn't that already the service areas, right? Isn't that already addressed with the buffers?
Well, no, I mean,
I guess,
potentially,
well, service areas, I guess would be like dumpsters and
yeah.
things of that nature.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
now they have to
Yeah.
have closure. This is just requiring, so in addition, if they don't already,
Right.
but yeah, in most situations, you're gonna have it.
I'm just trying to think where that would. Where? That would be an issue.
I could see this being an issue actually in a lot of areas. So if somebody wanted to put a convenience store in MX and they had at least 5,000 square feet and they met whatever parking requirement in NMX is, which I didn't feel like was much at all. I'll have to look back at that. They could do that right now.
Well, it can be no more than.
Less.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to remove convenience stores from being allowed in NMX.
Second that.
All right, motion in a second.
You're saying-
Disallow prohibit.
Not even if it's adjacent to residence, so you don't want to allow convenience stores at all.
If it's adjacent to residential, abutting residential,
Okay, so the way it is, the first part,
correct.
okay,
My apologies.
I just wanted to go through.
Do I need to redo that?
No, nope, you basically did the first bullet. You move forward with the first bullet. Any other discussion?
The only thing I like the thought of a bodega store or something that's close by, if you live in a neighborhood, I think that's the intent of allowing less than 5,000 square foot building before in the original UDO, but I mean, this isn't something that's gonna cause me to shed a tear either way, so.
It's just a convenience store to me is something in the area of
Yeah.
residential neighborhoods
Yeah.
to make it convenient.
Yeah.
I mean, if they have to be in a commercial area, then I mean,
And you have to remember they're like downtown mixed use and neighborhood mixed use is very close to each other. Like downtown mixed use would be where our current gas station and convenience store is, and Bon Air is, right? So that makes sense to have a convenience store in those areas. But you go one block to the neighborhood mixed use, it doesn't make sense to have a convenience store next to a budding residential, in my opinion.
Any other discussion? All right, we have a motion and a second to move forward to the planning commission. The prohibition of convenience stores if adjacent to residential property. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed?
Hey,
The ayes have it.
All right, next is, looking at the lodging conditional uses. You have a bulleted explanation of the changes first, and then the actual proposed changes. That the proposal voted to removing the computing bed and breakfast for short-term rental language. And changed to 2 separate STR uses based on the number of guest rooms allowed. Added a maximum occupancy in addition to a maximum number of guest rooms. Added clarifying language regarding the requirement for a short-term rental permit to be renewed annually. Added language that the short-term rental permit number must be included in any advertisement for the STR. Clarified that STRs cannot be allowed if they are specifically prohibited by recorded covenants and restrictions. And then added clarifying language to the STR definition. So basically what I did was, the first thing you'll see is the use chart. So basically it's taking away the homestay bed and breakfast and the bed and breakfast, and short-term rental is changing to short-term rental 1 up to 5 guest rooms, and then basically short-term rental 2 is kind of going where the bed and breakfast N was, which is the 6 to 10 guest rooms. And now look at what we're proposing here. So basically the homestay bed and breakfast changes to short-term rental 1, adding NMX and MHR there is also conditional in those. Adding the information about NMX properties and the owner occupancy. Adding maximum occupancy, so in addition to up to 5 guest rooms, the maximum overnight occupancy of an STR shall not exceed 2 persons, excluding minor children per bedroom, plus 2 additional people per dwelling unit.
So we just hit the pause button there real quick. So under STR1, your make STR1 NMX is it's conditional use in NMX.
Correct.
Same as it is now.
Yeah, but I
Yeah,
know I'm jumping ahead. But in STR2, it's permitted or it's conditional?
It's still conditional.
do you know,
6 to 10,
So-
the distinction being the number of bedrooms.
Understood.
this wasn't provided in our packet ahead of time, so I didn't have a chance to review this, and this is a big decision, and it's a lot here to unpack. But is it possible to take a break or take a few minutes to read this or something and break it down?
Admittedly, I need to use the restroom, so if y'all don't mind taking a break, if y'all want to read it, that's fine with me.
I make that
Or
motion.
wanna just.
Take a break.
Okay.
10 minutes.
Thank you.
No.
Unmuted. All right, we are back and still looking at item 4D, clarification on short-term loans.
All right, so. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. You have the floor, ma'am.
Thank you. I don't love taking the verbiage bed and breakfast away. It's not a hill I'm willing to die on, but I do think it being Somerville's history, I think the term bed and breakfast means something to Somerville. However, it's not the end of the world if it's not in there, if the verbiage is not in there, as long as somebody could still have a bed and breakfast.
Yes.
It doesn't prohibit someone
Yes.
qualifying for the bed and breakfast definition under the state law
Yeah,
to be able to not.
It's just
pay
what we're
accommodations,
doing it.
taxes.
Right.
It's just clarifying the language because people get confused.
okay.
And we were, I think, taking steps to verify they complied with the state bed and breakfast rules through the discussion process, and we don't want to get in that business.
So the 50% owner occupancy for an LLC. Or even someone living there 183 days. If you have a property that decides to put their property in an estate, and they go in a senior housing facility or something, and then they can't live there anymore, and they've got 5 children on that estate. I feel like that's one example. There's many examples. I feel like the LLC, then you get into, well, what happens with estates? What happens with, there's lots of other situations. I like the idea that we talked about before, if they have another 4% residents within, so close to the resident, to maybe within, where they can still manage it, maybe within 5 blocks or within NMX or within the town, something reasonable that says, okay, they live pretty close and are able to manage it, I feel like should be considered. But then again, if you have somebody, and I know, just like me, like I have all my properties in different LLCs. My grandmother, she's got a property in an LLC with all of her kids on it. She's gonna be going to a senior. There's so many scenarios where this would further restrict somebody. I feel like it could, I don't know exactly how, but I think it could be a little bit better than it is.
Just a question, if it's family members, it's family members, right? They're not. That would,
Well, if you're renting it,
if you got 5 kids there.
but what if the 5 kids want to rent it out, but they're not a 50% owner because they're all,
Actually live there.
Yeah.
Okay.
they're all 10% or something, that's.
Just to chime in, as the staff person who reviews these applications, the situation you're describing, I have not seen. It's not something that has come up ever.
And that to me is irrelevant, because sometimes people will research, and if they see something that's not allowed, well, they're not gonna bother trying. Some people are pretty savvy, especially if they have attorneys or good representation. If they know that it's not allowed, or it's gonna be a hassle, or if they have to go in front of boards, and they're not even gonna attempt.
I mean, people do a lot of due diligence and they call us and, they do zoning verification letters as a part of that to make sure. But I suppose anything's possible.
The other thing is the maximum number of guests, up to 5 guest rooms shall not exceed 2 persons, excluding minor children, per bedroom, plus 2 additional people per dwelling. I feel like that is totally restrictive. I mean, some of these old houses have, they might have a bedroom that's super small with no closet. They might have a bedroom that's 400 square feet. I think that, but then, so now they're gonna have to modify their house to put a wall in a 400 square foot room just to work within our restrictions. I think there could be a better way, maybe square footage instead of guest rooms or something of that nature, where if you're not defining that by a guest room. Also, in downtown Charleston, some of the properties we manage, they have turned dining rooms into bedrooms for these college students. I don't agree with it, you know, but so I feel like there's a better way to handle this.
I just.
So what that's saying,
I just
just
want to
so I
clarify
understand.
this. If it's zoned DMX, none of these conditions apply.
Correct.
If it's zoned UCMX, none of these conditions apply. If it's zoned general business, none of these conditions apply.
But for STR1, what it's saying is you have 10 adults who can be guests. Then the 2 adults who also reside there, plus however many children those 10 adults bring with them, and however many children the 2 dwelling adults have.
So that's
So
a
that
lot of
could
people
be-
in one house.
That's,
Correct. And I'm not saying that.
and that's just for STR1.
I was gonna say, and
not
this is
STR2.
not, again, this is not a change from what we're really more just clarifying the language to avoid the confusion between short-term rental and homestay bed and breakfast.
And I think
So it's
what,
exactly, I mean, how this reads, we are adding the maximum occupancy, but we're not changing the number of guest rooms. That was already up. to
I know.
guest rooms.
that's not, my point is that we need to change all of this. It's not the short-term rentals, the bed and breakfast, all of that. It's confusing. It's caused a lot of issues. There are lots of what you would call non-conforming issues. And if we're getting rid of non-conforming, that's a whole nother topic that we'll have to get to, but there's a lot here that we really need to look at. So in short-term rental 1 and short-term rental 2. So does this, how will that affect if they have cottages on the property? That will, so you've got the house and then say you have 2 cottages or 4 cottages, like several properties have 5 cottages.
So we don't generally allow 5 cottages. Our ordinance generally allows up to 2. There's been some that have. Maybe these that had more than that before that was clarified, but
Well, what about the Linwood property, for example?
the Linwood property,
They've got 5 cottages and they've got also rooms in the house.
I'm not aware of 5 cottages on that property.
Okay.
You know, the one on the corner we sold. Or they sold.
But again, that was approved, that is an existing legal non-conforming use because they were a bed and breakfast prior to any of this. These
Right.
ordinance changes.
Right, but if we got rid of the non-conforming uses,
We're not
You're
gonna
not-
have uses.
okay,
They just can't do anything else.
Well, as y'all know, when you get to the heart of why owner occupancy is a requirement, it's intended, yes, for the housing that you mentioned, but also to prevent out-of-town LLCs from purchasing properties and short-term renting them, which can be done in DMX,
right,
but in a neighborhood area, which we had talked about an overlay district to slow the high-intensity commercialization of residential areas, but have some allowances for things that overall a lot of people felt good about. But now that we're rezoning, the zoning issue may not be necessary. So if we're going to address some of that owner occupancy stuff, we need to do it through this zoning probably more logically.
so there's a
So we
lot,
need to think about the why behind it, and then, you know, in that overlay, if local Somervillians, our citizens, wanted to do a bed and breakfast, which now would be an STR1, maybe in NMX or some other zoning designation, they would be allowed the opportunity to do that if they lived in Somerville, where they could keep a close eye. It's an investment, it's a way to maintain. The intent is to prevent out-of-towners from coming in and trying to do that in our residential areas.
And I like that. You guys, like, go back to the guest rooms though. There's a lots of properties with one or two cottages. We'll just go with one cottage. And it's got 2 or 3 bedrooms, but then the main house has 2, 3 or 4 bedrooms. You're still just one cottage with 2 bedrooms and one house with 4 bedrooms. You're over the limit. That's 7 rooms. And some of these are on, a couple acres of land or acreage, and that's just one there's lots of properties with 2 cottages. And allowable by their zoning. That's why I thought that it would be better if it was a square footage and then you took the square footage of the.
Generally, a guest room would be if it's rented as, like, if the cottage is rented by itself, like you can't rent it to 2 separate people, we would generally count that as a guest room. That's the way we've done it currently. Now, if you're trying to rent 1 bedroom in the cottage to someone and 1 bedroom to someone else, then it's 2 separate guest rooms.
So you're saying, okay, so.
It's kind of like a suite at a hotel. You rent a suite, that's one.
Okay, then that would need to be defined, because then a guest room is not really a guest room. You're saying if you rented, say that cottage had 2 guest rooms, but it was 1 person renting it, that's 1 unit, not 2. Even though it has 2 guest rooms, it's still 1 guest room in your mind.
Correct.
Then this should be defined further to state that so there's no, ambiguity or any issues in the future. Like a unit would be.
Yeah, it's a unit.
A unit is a unit, but the guest rooms are irrelevant to the units. Because 1 unit could have 3 guest rooms. Is that what you're saying?
ADUs are only like a 2 bedroom show, but
Okay, well, 1 unit could have two guest rooms. Is that what you're saying?
it would be rented to a single family.
Correct.
And you only have 1 bathroom, 1 kitchen, 1, correct?
Well,
So.
That's-
Rented to 2.
you're not restricted on your number of bathrooms. You could have 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms.
In the
Go ahead.
interest of time, may I make a suggestion to everyone? Sounds like this is probably a bit of a sticking point. So so that we can get to these other items, can we pass over this and likely come back, get input from each of you as staff after you've got a chance to kind of look at this more closely, and then make suggestions, and then we can come back to this at a later date?
Yeah, that would be a good idea, just so we have a chance to review this in detail and all think about it.
Because item 4E should be pretty easy. And then we need to discuss item 5, that's a conceptual, and then let Wyatt talk about the FLU map and have that discussion. Well, is that okay?
Board says attrition by starvation.
Yeah, I don't
Is that
think
what
we
you're saying?
this issue.
No, that makes sense.
As we expect. Or, well,
Do we want to take a motion to come to this at our September committee meetings, or?
Well, the only problem with the committee meeting is
We can't all discuss it.
only the planning committee can have that discussion, and this is really a step.
For the design guidelines.
yeah, we're gonna have to come, yeah, we'll have to bring you back for sure.
Right.
Yeah,
Roger that.
so September workshop is we're doing.
We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out.
All right, roger that. So moving on to 4E.
So this is a very simple change, under the definition of abandonment discontinuance. Currently states the property structure use has been vacant or inactive for a continuous period of more than 90 days. It's changing it to 180 days.
Because 90 days is fast when you're going through a change like that.
All right, problem with it.
That's all it is.
Yeah,
All right,
make a motion to approve, send that to planning commission.
Second.
motion and seconds to approve. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
All right, turn this over to Jeff.
If I may, real quickly. If I may introduce this topic real quickly. Based on observation, based on feedback from applicants, based on feedback from you all. It is apparent that we need to make our approval processes as efficient as we possibly can with regard to land use design and that kind of thing. And so what I've been talking to Becca and Jesse about and others across the staff is, how can we cut down the amount of time, the amount of appearances that people need to make in front of our various boards and commissions. And so one of the concepts that we've discussed is finding those ways, especially obvious ways where staff could use its discretion in a more timely way rather than to have to put every single potential iota of detail and scrutiny in front of our boards and commissions. And so one of those ways is to potentially change our design guidelines and allow staff the opportunity to use its discretion and its experience to help expedite some of these applications when I would argue that maybe even some of our boards and commissions would argue that I think they've even asked sometimes, why is this question in front of us? So that is the aim in what Becca is going to talk about and what we would ultimately like to get in front of you for approval as changes to the UDO. So
I would love to give you a standing ovation. Any way we can compress the process and allow our citizens to get answers faster and more timely, thumbs up.
So just to build, thank you, Scott.
You're welcome.
To build a little bit on what Scott was just talking about. So I don't know if y'all know this, but I facilitate the design review board, which essentially dictates the design aesthetics of commercial, new construction, multifamily outside of the historic district. So everything we're going to talk about does not affect the historic district at all. So just get that out of the way from the jump. So right now, our design guidelines are pretty minimal. So what I often hear working with developers is that they don't have any direction on what Somerville wants, what our identity is. So that's a lot of that first conceptual meeting that they have with our design review board. And those are, specific volunteers with specific opinions. So the feedback can sometimes be inconsistent, is what I've heard. Not really have a basis, or they're simply pointed towards, well, we have a lot of brick in town. So that doesn't leave a lot of flexibility for our developers, especially when you're thinking about franchises that have a specific model. It's very hard for them to figure out what the design review board wants. So having something more clearly defined for them to work off of, or staff to work off of, to make the process easier is something that we think would be good for everyone. I did a little mock-up of just an example, this page right here. So basically what we are thinking is that we would have overlays and corridors. Your overlay, the example I used is Midtown. So this would be from the railroad tracks beyond, our gridded street area. And again, these overlays and corridors, I didn't want to get too much into defining those without support that y'all actually wanted to pursue this. So this isn't, I did walking around on Google and did a few screen grabs. But basically the guideline would define that area. It would describe what is in that area as far as types of businesses, types of structures, and what are typical design features. So it would further break that down. So if you're a developer, you could talk to staff, what overlay am I in? Point to that. Then they have some direction. That way their design is informed So when they do submit to us, that's their best and brightest that they have gleaned from what we provided them. And y'all will be helping us mold that. So again, the overlays are going to be, you know, midtown areas that are reaching just beyond a main corridor. So it's not really just the frontage that you're dictating there, it's the area beyond. So an example of a corridor would be like Central Avenue. So we have a lot of commercial uses along Central Avenue, but then beyond that, there's a lot of residential, it's more rural. So this would kind of inform, again, a developer, what they're looking at in context and give them clues to what should dictate their design, essentially. And
in doing that, when they come in front of the DRB, say, hopefully they would have a more refined initial design to put in front of the DRB, which would hopefully limit the opportunity for subjectiveness in the design from each individual member.
Well, and it admittedly, hopefully what we would get to is where we have the design guidelines substantial enough to where it wouldn't have to go to DB.
Right,
It would only go to DRB if they wanted to do something outside of what's allowed.
right,
be more of an appellate.
right.
So it could be approved at staff level.
I think this is a great idea. This is similar to what Jesse and I seen in Florence with their design guidelines were set up like overlays like this for all of the Florence area. And I thought it was great. They did a really good job with it. I think this is good. I'd add that I think that, you know, Oak Brook should have its own the
Yeah,
next
so what will
area.
come to you with at the next workshop is those actual identifying those corridors and the overlays. And then likely having like some base guidelines that apply everywhere and then specific guidelines for each corridor.
Okay, how do we make sure that the future develops or come to you with as far as laying out the guidelines, we actually improve. If you improvement as new developments came online, so like 17A line in town, it's.
I get what you're saying, because you're like, well, some of the stuff that's
Right, of course.
you know, that could be repeated, so that would be within the guidelines. We would, working with y'all, there would be a vision for that area, which would be generally is established in the comp plan, the vision for that.
These areas we focus a little
And
bit
then-
less on
And
existing.
then you would, you know, in certain areas, you focus less on existing and what you hope that corridor to look like in the future, or that overlay to look like in the future, and that's what those guidelines would be based on.
Because right now, developers have guidelines and very specific from our UDO as it relates to the site. So they've already gone, you know, so far in designing the site to meet our requirements, and then they're left to kind of guess what they're gonna like for the actual architectural part of it. So they come to the DRB almost with a half plan, and that honestly doesn't go down well most of the time. So, and I
Wasted.
The DRB's expectation is probably much more different than how the conceptual plan was actually informed,
right.
right?
Well, yeah, conceptual is drawn just based on what the lot looks like.
Correct.
So it's nothing to do with what's around it.
So context sensitive, but kind of leveling up our excellence again, reestablishing it.
I like it.
I love this idea.
Mhm.
And if you have any ideas for specific areas, I mean, Jesse and I have talked, you know, at length about, you know, what's a corridor, should this overlay be? I would greatly appreciate it. You know, I wasn't born here. I've only lived here since 2017, so there's probably something that I wouldn't know about that y'all would. So I would appreciate any input on that.
We have plenty of opinions.
Yes, yes.
Well, I think something looking at this that would be helpful to me, like the Main Street picture here with the railroad tracks, have what it looks like now and
Mhm.
what we would like it to become as a comparison. Because that way, when you have those things you don't like, you can say, this is here, but this is what we want.
Yeah, I think we have some pretty good diagrams in the UDO that we can build off of. That would make sense.
Your building's on there, so.
Ray, in your design guidelines, or maybe it's not the place for it, but that you could emphasize some of our multimodal goals that we talk about in our new comprehensive plan, our old comprehensive plan. We've got the safety action plan. I don't know if it's necessarily in the design guidelines, or could it be in the design guidelines where it's really prioritized some of those?
There are ways we can, yeah, there are definitely ways we can, and, I mean, it already is in the UDO in certain ways that we require pedestrian connectivity, we require bicycle parking, we require that type of stuff, but yeah, I mean, we can certainly look at that when we're looking at the design guidelines. Particularly in certain areas.
All right.
So with your blessing, then we will move forward and bring that to you at our next workshop.
That sounds great. Wyatt?
Next up, presentation of future land use map.
All right. Thank you all for having me. As you know, I'm with Lisa and Todd. We've been working with the town on updating the comprehensive plan. So this is the 5-year review. We had a workshop, I believe, maybe January, February-ish, that discussed the future land use map. I see you guys brought it out. I also have a few larger maps if we want to converge. True. Oh, well, that one might be easier to read than this draw up now, but it's a little. Oh, yeah, I had to.
Yeah, no, I wanted to be able.
Oh, that's probably it. I can roll these out, or just want to look at the stuff to y'all.
Yeah, we look at these.
Okay, all right. So the changes to the future land use map, that was a big focus of this 5-year review. The 2020 plan was very much, the future land use map was more parcel based. This future land use map, while we do use parcels boundaries as kind of a guideline, we did it more based on the general character of those areas. So you'll see that the lines are much more, we'll say, rounded out. And that was, again, intentional. We wanted to make sure that that's kind of the norm, the common practice nowadays is the future land use maps are becoming less parcel by parcel and more just kind of those general areas. And so we wanted to make sure that we reflect that kind of common practice, planning practice that's kind of evolving. We want to make sure that's reflected in this update. So you can see we have I think about the same number of future land use designations. I don't remember the exact ones from the current 2020. I think it's 14, maybe 15. I think now we have 15, 16. And so the main intention, the primary intention of doing these generalized areas is we based the descriptions on the character of the area rather than, like I said, the individual use. We realized that, along, let's say, Berlin G. Myers, there might be commercial uses there, but the general character is residential in that area, or the same with like Central Avenue. We realize that there might be some commercial areas kind of mixed in, but we don't want to do that parcel level of analysis. We wanted to kind of generalize it. As I mentioned earlier, the future land use map is supposed to be a guiding document or a guiding map. And the descriptions are supposed to be used to guide future decisions. How you implement the future land use map is through rezonings, the zoning ordinance, design guidelines, capital improvement plans, stuff like that. Those more, regulatory policy things. So we mentioned in the future land use workshop that we had back in the winter, we changed one of I think we added a mixed density neighborhood. That was kind of the primary takeaway from that meeting was, adding that new district or maybe reclassifying it. I forget exactly how we did it. Since then, we have added right around, I don't know the dates. Jesse, where's that area that we added the town mixed use right here? I don't know what property is.
The inner foresight.
Yes,
Yeah.
so that's, since then, yes, I'm sorry, I was another exactly, since then, that is one of the changes that we've made. So, you'll notice that, I think that was by request from the town, so it wasn't just like, you know, the B City cog was like, oh, we're gonna make this whatever we want. It was by request of the town, so we made that adjustment. The map that you have before you is the most recent version. It's what we, took the planning commission. They approved it back in July, I believe. And so the point of this meeting is just to try to make sure the council's on board, and if there's anything else we'd like to discuss, I'm all ears.
I have a couple questions. So I see here we've got parks and open space, which is defined on the map, but there's several parks like Doty Park now is not on here. And the small park on Richardson there is not on here. And it's now in a suburban residential or mixed density neighborhood. Is that saying that based on this, like that would go away or what?
So
What?
The point of we didn't do it at a parcel analysis level. So you'll notice that most of the school sites, the individual school sites are not on here. That doesn't mean they're not allowed to be on there. The individual parks may not all be on there, that especially if they're smaller. So you'll see that like I think
Azalea Parks, yeah.
so some of those larger park areas, like the Hagen Park is on there, the Somerville Little League fields. You know, you have Old Dorchester, those larger park areas we wanted to identify because they are, you know, just larger, they're maybe concentrated. Because we don't identify them on the future land use map doesn't mean that your zoning ordinance can't still permit them.
So our 2021 map shows them, but the new one does not.
Yeah, and that the 2021 one, it is parcel based.
And so again, we tried to get away from that and go look at the character. And obviously, in the middle of a neighborhood, a park is fitting with the character. A school, a religious institution, those are fitting with the character of that neighborhood. And that's sort of what the future land use descriptions are trying to capture is not identify specific uses. You know, we'll let the zoning ordinance take care of that, but identify the character of that area, and then we'll let when you guys did the UDO update, we'll let that kind of flesh out what do you think the uses are compatible in the character of the neighborhood. So if you think that the convenience stores are compatible with this area, then we'll allow them in there. If you think no, then we'll let the zoning ordinance kind of handle that, where the future land use is just kind of guide, right? We've established this vision. Zoning ordinance is how we implement it. And so parks, there's especially small ones. We do identify, I think Somerville High School is like, actually, yeah. No, we don't do any institutional, I don't think. No, I'm sorry, I was looking industrial, I thought it said institutional. So yeah, we do not identify any institutional uses, religious sites, education, even the, city owned lands. We don't identify any of that, just to be consistent throughout the whole area.
The new 100-meter buffer for the mixed use corridors, all this pink here. If there is something that overlap, what is the ruling designation? If it's currently with this new mixed use 100-meter buffer.
You say ruling designation.
Yeah, well, so we've got this, but if it's currently like a neighborhood mixed use or a single family or residential, what is controlling it? This is the mixed use
The zoning.
corridor,
The zoning controls it. And
right?
if they ask for a rezoning, this is our guideline to help
Yeah,
shape whether we rezone it or not.
yeah. And what is defined in a mixed use corridor by this method?
That is up to you all, how you do the zoning. We just put the corridors in there. That was one of the changes that Jesse and I discussed pretty early on. We we looked through, I'm sure Jesse did a bunch of research before we got into this process. We've used corridors in the past and other comprehensive plans. They work pretty well in allowing flexibility for the town to do different types of uses along these corridors that may experience increased traffic volumes. We want to, instead of making Central Avenue just purely residential, because that's what most of the areas around, we identified this as a mixed use corridor. Realizing that there may be in the future some flexibility, like, oh, we might want a convenience store there. Now the zoning ordinance, it depends on which zoning district you do the rezoning, but this just says, all right, we realize there is some sort of future potential here. It doesn't have to be approved, but we're just saying that these corridors are where we want to target some sort of mixed use development. With how much Somerville, there is annexation potential, but there's also the desire to infill. Those corridors are kind of that target to receive some of that more infill development.
Yeah, these are not zoning districts.
Right, understand, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm not clear on what I'm asking. I just want to make sure that it's, we always talk about, well, our comprehensive plan says this, or our map says this. I think it's important that we're looking at what we currently have.
When I'm done with the map, and I've brought up the map a lot in the last few months when we talked about some rezonings that we dealt with. I view this map as our vision of what does council want to see, and we had it just so happened this year, we had an opportunity to adjust that vision of how we wanted to see a particular region of town, if you will, of how we wanted it to look and what we wanted to have allowable uses there. And it was a good opportunity for us to do that and be just out and open to what we were looking at for a certain area. I think the town did the same thing several years ago in the northeast side of the track. And Jesse, you can correct me if I'm off there, but northeast side of the railroad tracks, that quadrant of town started converting more commercial. That was one of the things that was big. I think that was when we did a rezone of comprehensive plan update during that time period. And after that comprehensive plan update, that sends a message to commercial businesses are looking at town to come here, and they say, well, listen, we can relocate to that area of town because that's what we just heard them say they're looking for over there. So it's just a way for us to help paint a vision, is just out and open and vocal. So, that's what, and that, what ultimately what we decided to do as a council is what we decided to do. It doesn't, it's irrelevant with the zoning, but and with this map for that matter. It's just, I don't know, in my mind, I say if we're going to have a map and we're going to put this out to the public as this division of what we want for this area, we ought to try to stay pretty close to it.
Does it take into effect any kind of transportation studies or anything like that? Is that taken into effect when these are made?
You mean like requiring transportation studies for development, or?
No, I'm just wondering if when y'all, or when we're doing this, or y'all are making this, what are y'all basing this on?
The first thing is the
Existing.
well, I'll say two things: the existing land use map. So, the 2021, the current land, let me rephrase that. The existing land use map, which is like the land use is actually on the ground, right?
Mhm.
When we say, residential, well, what is that? Is that single family? Is it townhomes? Is it multifamily? So we look at that level. What is actually on the ground? Is it vacant? Is it not vacant? And then we also look at the existing, sorry, I'm using it again, the current 2020 land use map, future land use map. So those are the two things we looked at first, to kind of form like the basis of this. Then we worked with the town staff on kind of, doing that first vetting, then we kind of refined things. We went to the council, we had that workshop. So that was like another round of vetting. And then ultimately, this is what we came up with.
Wyatt, isn't one of the 9 elements of the comp plan transportation?
It is.
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, so transportation and land use are both elements that are part of the plan. And
Right.
so
That's why I was asking if that's just like,
it is a factor. Everything, everything kind of influences land use, especially the future land use map. Were there specific studies that influenced it?
or
Not
even
really, because
old
the
studies.
Tri-County Link study I don't even think has been released yet. I know it's in development. So we couldn't really hold off on that, and given our project time frame. But we did, being the COG, we do know of transportation plans. So we tried to take that into consideration. We looked at the mixed use corridors. We worked pretty closely with Jesse on identifying those. I believe council identified more of them. I think it was council or planning commission. Extended some of them, identified new ones. So we kind of done several vetting processes of this plan to kind of get to this result.
Council members, any other questions or Wyatt's presentation?
The only changes I would make on the Orangeburg Road corridor, I would extend that mixed use corridor all the way to Dorchester Road. And the same for Bacon's Bridge Road from the current neighborhood mixed use, I would extend that mixed use corridor all the way to Dorchester Road.
So from Trolley to Bakersfield, this right here.
So which mixed use corridor, because there, what are you thinking? Because there's some.
Closing this gap here. Here.
So this goes from employment, so you're thinking, oh, yes, it's 100 meter, I see it. And this here, yeah, that's one.
But basically, any road that's 5 lanes wide should have the opportunity to be commercial at some point. Bacon's Bridge already fits that bill.
When we chose the corridors, we tried to base that mostly off of the on the ground land use map, you know, the existing land use map. When Old Trolley Road, we recognized that there was a pattern of like kind of sporadic commercial uses all along that corridor. It wasn't kind of concentrated. So that's what kind of made that decision. Miles Jamison, I think, was one of the corridors that Planning Commission Council extended to encompass that entire area.
Because it's gonna be 5 lanes wide.
Yeah, realizing there is once it does become, you know, a more major corridor, it's going to expand. So yeah, we can absolutely extend those and
I agree with that.
Can I ask a question to Jesse here? So if we have something in the future land use map that's considered mixed density neighborhood, because like a lot of Dexter's area, there is going to be a mixed density neighborhood. And some of mine, how would that affect? But our zoning, our UDO is not changing. Our number of units per acre, you know, GR2, GR5, all of that staying the same. But here we're saying mixed density neighborhood. I'm just a little bit, and I understand they're two different things, but they still kind of, they talk to each other. So how do you see that in your professional opinion, Jesse, changing? Do we change our UDO one day in the future, a few years from now, to fit mixed density neighborhood?
I mean, if you read mixed density neighborhood, it talks about preserving the historic character and mixture of residential densities that have developed naturally over the decades. So it talks about still fitting within the character, which is what we talked about at the last land use workshop, making sure that area, particularly historic Brownsville area, that was taken into account. So it even mentions the potential of infill development, having specific design guidelines for that area. So I mean,
Exactly.
I don't think we're not looking at changing the zoning per se, but looking at in that area, you know, potentially looking at design guidelines for that infill development that may be of a, you know, townhome, that they're getting that house being issue, not meeting the character of the existing residential within there. And so developing those design guidelines, so any infill is more in line with the character of what's historically been in that area.
And mixed density could be 1 acre lots, it could be half acre lots.
That's
So it doesn't-
exactly why
I know that's the kind of the stigma is like, oh, when you mention the word density, people are, you know, typically assuming multifamily units. That is a form of density, but it, you know, mixed density could be, you know, a mixture.
The same.
Yes.
I understand what it means, but it's something, I guess I'm not asking the question in the proper way. Because it also, mixed density includes everything that we just said, right? It also says ADUs, it says infill, it says duplexes, it says small scale apartments, all of that. But we know not all of that is allowed in, say, GR2, which is a lot of that is GR2, right?
No, very little of that is zoned. GR.
Okay.
Most of that's zoned NR neighborhood residential.
In Dexter's area? Okay, so even if it's GR2, GR5, neighborhood residential, if that's the case, and it's,
That's a part of the mix of densities.
okay, so you don't see us ever having to change anything to fit what
don't
this
see it.
says, and this is one area.
Should you choose to change something, you've got that flexibility to change it, but no, I don't, this is not saying you have to change anything.
And I think we developed, we kind of shaped this area, obviously, we had this discussion at the future land use workshop, because I believe it used to be, I think it used to be downtown transition, and we were like, oh, that's not kind of the vibe. Sorry, that was a very millennial thing to say. That was not the intention. So we ended up,
Yeah, it was
adjusting it.
Focused on commercial and that type of
Yeah.
thing, which was not what that historic neighborhood is, was what we really intended for
But
that historic. neighborhood.
The language in it is highly flexible, because we don't say, because mixed density could be anything. If you keep the current UDO, in place, if you decide to adjust the density in, one area versus another area, it still fits because it's all that mixed density. And even, kind of the redevelopment potential, the missing middle, the infill, all of that is still consistent with the description, because again, we tried to move towards the character and the design of the neighborhoods, these areas, rather than like the specific uses. And I think going back to the design guidelines, I think just listening in, the future land use map could be a great tool to use to identify maybe some of these areas, these design guideline areas, because we're already establishing vision. We can then just directly correlate that to be like, all right, we've already said, all right, this is areas a kind of a corridor. This is a future land use designation. Let's assign some design guidelines, and that's a digestible thing for people to understand.
Okay, any other questions for Wyatt before we move to item 7? We started on item 7, a little bit, which is good. All right. Hearing none, we can go to item 7. Discuss and take action required on future land use map, which we have right now. 2 items clearly identified: the extension of Orangeburg to Dorchester and the connection of Bacon's Bridge to Dorchester with the 100-meter buffer mixed use corridor.
I do have one quick change that I noticed when took a closer look at the map. Brian and I had discussed this area, but I think I didn't quite realize up on the North Maple extension, North Maple Street. The southeast side of North Maple also has general business zoning already, and I don't think we're intending to move away from that. So potentially adding that commercial mixed use to that, not far out, but a little bit. It's further than the mixed use corridor. So maybe adding another 100-meter width or something along there for that.
Oh, okay.
Commercial mixed use. Make sure that we're not getting the wrong message about it.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
See there. Okay.
It looks like GR5 is the zoning now around Doty Park. GR5 is most of the zoning.
So there's GR5 and there's PUD, but adjacent to North Maple Street,
There's GR5. That's all GR5.
that's not,
Doty Park.
no, North Maple Street.
No, I was talking about around Doty Park.
Okay.
But you definitely want to make that adjustment on Maple Street. on
Yes.
North Maple, yeah.
Correct,
Okay.
yeah, so on North Maple, just to stand out a little bit further from what the actual issues.
Yeah.
And another item that appears to be, I know we're not doing parcel by parcel, but in the grid network, we do have it designated block by block. But I don't know what council wants to do. We've taken action to rezone one of the properties along Richardson and between Richardson and the tracks. I don't know if anybody wants to address that as well.
Well, I don't know if the future land use prevents lawful rezoning for contiguous property.
No, it doesn't.
And I think that's just a good organic way for rezoning to happen.
since we're approving this for the next 5 years. So I don't know if we wanted to change any of that.
And I certainly don't want to change it to DMX.
No.
Others transition, you know, so we had one full neighborhood block over there, going block by block, and you know, we don't have that anymore. Casey, you know, so there's no other.
Do you think it could be done?
Yeah, I don't specifically want to encourage that commercial growth in that direction, but I don't want to discourage it either, and I think. By the current rezoning laws. It's permissible, of course, to rezone something if
Yeah.
property across the street is zone that or something more than that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little far in myself, but, it's just me.
So not like a downtown transition or anything, just leave it alone. I'm good either way. I just want
I mean,
to approving it.
I think it should be more of a downtown transition. At least some of that.
I'd like to draw a hard line somewhere in between what council would want to have as, transitional and neighborhood and mixed use and whatnot, that to those zonings.
This is too important. I kind of would like to look at the big map, street by street.
Yeah.
You know, I think this is too important.
It just kind of makes a, I don't know.
But you already have mixed use going all the way down to the canal.
For you, is it
Yeah.
on the side of you?
Yeah.
If there's a hard line there, then.
So there's a.
Yeah.
The legs already been spread.
But you know, right now it is. So I believe who could start allowing. Essentially, neighborhood mixed use across Richardson, which I don't want to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is Richardson right here. This.
This is, no, this is Doty. I mean, it's not, this is Richardson here.
Where the purple is and stop, but the corner is. Well, corner out of the purple.
This here.
Yeah.
Suggestion, if there is any change to that area, you might not want to just do one specific block.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do, I'd say. Yeah, you want to do maybe a cluster 4 to make sure you're not kind of singling out a specific area. I know I talked with Jesse, and we're kind of gonna wait to see what the result of this meeting. But because planning commission has already recommended approval for this plan, any major changes to the plan for future land use map could or should, however, you know, the legal phrase, potentially go back to planning commission if there's major changes. Extending the mixed use corridor, I wouldn't really consider a major change. The commercial mixed use, you know, along the North Maple, probably not a major change because this area is a little bit more contentious. I'll let the town decide what they want, but that could be a potential major change because of all of the action around that area. You might want to consider you know, if you do change it significantly, throwing it back to the planning commission for their approval. And again, town decision, I just want to throw that option out there.
If you look at the actual zoning map, you see various zonings along that spot.
So
I have a bigger version of the zoning map if you'd like.
and I apologize to mention this again, and I don't know, I'm just not, if I'm not getting it or what. So you've got the future land use map, okay, and you've got, it says mixed density neighborhoods and downtown business. And I apologize for my ignorance on this, but I just want to make sure I really get it. But you've got in the comprehensive plan, you're saying downtown mixed use and mixed density in this area, okay? And then on here, you've got like a mixed in GR5, GR2, downtown mixed use, neighborhood mixed use, kind of all mixed in that area. If somebody is in GR2 or either or, and they decide that, and they're in this downtown mixed use, and they decide they want to go downtown mixed use, but they are GR2 or GR5 now. And they're in either one of these areas, but they're not contiguous. Because they still have to be contiguous to rezone.
Pretty sure the downtown mixed use future land use, it goes exactly to downtown mixed use.
Well, it's two streets. There's two, it looks like two blocks.
I believe the downtown mixed use and the
Unless I'm off on my.
BMX are almost exactly the same.
Yeah.
It might be just a small difference.
Almost appears to be two blocks, which could be, am I wrong? I could be wrong. Maps are not the same.
Here's the area where you're looking. That's where the line of lofts are. Yes. And there,
This is
this is.
central here.
There's a difference, so it extends, right where the E is on Somerville, it extends to Vernon B. Myers and then goes all the way over to beyond the post office to include, I don't know what that is, the Popeyes, I think. And then goes up 176. So I think the biggest difference is it extends down and comes up and over. So it includes those areas here, but everything else is, I believe, almost exactly the same.
It's the same.
I know, almost is still not though. So that's still, can you tell me the exact street name of this right here?
This is,
Yeah, you guys might know that.
this is Central, Cedar, Central.
Yep.
And this is, I guess that's Pine.
Okay,
And this is Richardson.
Yeah.
and then over here, what is this?
Jody.
Which one are you pointing at?
Sorry, here.
This street here,
No, this one here, this little.
goes Fourth.
Okay. And then this street is what?
That one's gonna be Laurel, I believe.
Okay. So Laurel,
I don't know.
so then,
Right, Pine and Laurel, correct?
Always count on the fire.
Going back towards them.
I think just the.
Letting the kid that walk on home.
I think that's been thinking of street.
Yeah. Well, the street signs back then.
this is actually.
Thinking of McDonald's.
You just potentially go to first reading in September,
Okay, so there.
or wait, just is it October?
So,
Yeah, we've already,
These are changes that we will put in front of you at first reading to consider and vote upon.
So ideally, we would like to have your
Yeah, right.
decision made, so that way when we do go to council,
yeah.
it's kind of we'll say a walkthrough, right? I don't want to say it's a formality because we obviously want to get public input. But
That will inform the public, their feedback.
yes.
Yeah, this is why we're here on this item, is to get this input right now so that we can have it in front of you at first reading. So if there are.
I'm good with the three changes that have been discussed already.
yeah,
And I'm good with those two. I just was, I'd like to get a clear line, something like that. I don't want to see, I want something to discourage the continued expansion, and like I think there's another one that's gonna come up for rezoning for too long, this on West Carolina, and I don't even know what they're requesting, but I just saw the yellow signs out there, so there's kind of more things. West Carolina American, so.
Oh, I want to do it.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So you don't have to worry
All
about
right,
it.
so that was, that's not, that's good.
Yeah.
Sorry, well,
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, that's it.
So then,
Okay.
so commercial's not being encouraged in this area, it's more gonna be along this area,
Yeah, that's.
which is good. That's good.
Always gets to get.
And then the employment is here, and then that's back there, so it's encouraging employment development instead of percent. That's good.
None of this stuff is even in town yet.
Like, right around the-
Sure that we get. And it's been around what the zoning should be.
So this is not exit showing all of town of Centerville property.
It's put. No, but should like, that's it, whatever proposed to be annexed.
Proposed.
I guess that's a lot of the. We can keep voting no, I guess, or voting, we have a little vote.
I do actually like this, and that's what I was trying to understand, and now I understand it. You know, my concern was if Interfor, or just like this here, we're gonna push commercial development this way, but it looks like we're actually doing the opposite.
Yeah, no, we're not trying to. That's.
So when we look at
So
the
we-
existing land.
There may be.
I mean, but
You,
There-
are supporting commercial property.
In there. Yeah, right there, but really.
Even more.
Yes, I mean, which was.
Come this way, that way.
Which we.
And like I said, there may be a few, you know.
So we made the decision ourselves.
But not,
Different
not
corridors.
change to.
And if you want to see that commercial down Nathan's Bridge,
To you
we said not yet.
for a division.
So maybe in
A division of a vote.
30.
So that you don't have to vote
extension
on them as an
of
entire.
the- that was the thing I said.
Or down.
Yeah.
Put them to.
But if that's.
I would consider.
Give me a minute, y'all, give me one,
And that road
not.
seems like it's virtually developed, if it gets down to the intersection. All that.
Yes, that is true, and that's where that pink area is. So we've identified that, it's just between the pink area and then Dorchester Road, it is primarily residential, and that, again, when we assess the mixed use corridors, we've told the existing land use consideration, and that's why we did not include that corridor. But again, if council wants to extend it, then that's the motion then.
Well, most of those areas I want to extend are not even in town presently, but they may be one day.
Yeah,
Right, yeah, that's it, I don't know, really.
But yeah,
And most of them are already
the mixed use corridors, we looked, we
Already.
did look at the parcel level a little bit. That's why that's how we identified the 100 buffer. It's where the setup is.
Stop there.
A good amount of.
Sorry, that-
Anything that above that to those corridors carried really extend much further back.
That's right.
That's what we're
We say just under the buffer. And that's also.
So every item, you got, right now,
Yeah, the two.
I asked if there should be another one, a clear.
I don't know what that area would transition to. I don't know what you would call that, to where we had that solid line at. To make that boundary at Richardson and
Between Richardson and
South.
Travis, seen as one way,
Yeah.
Richardson south and
Well, we did some transition. Yeah.
Would you do just a small section here, like downtown transition, like here, you know, you've got your downtown mixed use, which is this, then. Downtown transition.
What else? Everything on the north side of Richardson Avenue, which is between Richardson Avenue and railroad tracks. Is basically commercial, or not commercial, or neighborhood mixed use or something to that effect. So. In order to kind of cut off anything going further south of Richardson, do we just go ahead and designate the area north of Richardson as an area that would be potential for transitional use? On the map, is my question.
I think that's a good idea. Instead of just doing straight this,
Right.
So
more transition.
Just as a transition, right, because it's already.
this is.
Yeah, please feel free to write on maps, because I'm gonna
Right.
roll them back up and take them back with me, so.
So this is Richardson here, so you're talking about like this area?
2 blocks.
Well,
These, like
to
here,
that way.
Yeah,
But just
so
on the
basically
north
this
side.
area here,
Right, yeah.
yeah,
like that,
yeah.
to be this.
I think
north
that's
one.
more reflective of what's happening.
It's already what's there. I
Yeah.
mean, it's already there now.
The other possibility is always making that a mixed use corridor, so that way you're still keeping the underlying.
The issue would be on the south side, you're intruding in a residential area.
Right,
300 meters would cover almost all of block.
right. Yeah, that's where we want to cut it off. In other words, I want a boundary. I like a boundary.
You want to add that, you can add that.
Yeah,
Okay, so that's item 4.
yeah.
And you're
So
you're
this
talking about that
here is the
area.
boundary here, so
Yes.
straight.
This here,
Yeah.
so basically. Richardson. From Richardson,
Magnolia Parkway.
Magnolia,
Doty.
railroad tracks.
Yeah.
To Burnham House. So I have 4 items, just to make sure everybody's on the same page. Extension of Orangeburg Road to Dorchester, extension of Bacon's Bridge to Dorchester. Commercial mixed use corridor on the Charleston side of North Maple Street for some partial length. And then downtown transition between Richardson, the railroad tracks and Berlin Myers Parkway.
What's the least intrusive as far as the downtown transition or?
Or would it be neighborhood mixed use? Would it be leased? Yeah.
Neighborhood mixed use.
So whatever's the
Well,
least.
but it says they're typically auto. About restaurants, actually.
Yeah, it's not doing that is, what's we just need to stop.
This talks about.
The transition does talk about, you know, preservation of surrounding character.
That appears
Mhm.
logical.
Yeah, it does.
Downtown transition.
Yeah. Any other guidance we want to give staff to bring to us for first reading and whenever?
Is it downtown transition? Just make sure.
And there's a mix of zonings that are already there anyway.
That will bring this to you as maybe one item on the agenda, but you'll vote on each of those separately, those sub items, if you will. That way you're not voting on a package up or down. Unless you prefer to vote on a package, but
This is what, 6 awards.
this is what we're
So right now or at the council meeting?
at the council. meeting.
My recommendation would be to vote on that stuff now, and then when we go to council,
Wanna do that?
the whole, yeah, because when we do the reading of the ordinance, it will be for adopting the plan,
Okay.
not, you know, unless you wanted to do those before, but that's, doing it right now.
Fair enough.
Just effective.
So you wanna vote on them individually, or you wanna vote
So we
on
vote on
them now?
If we vote on them now, all we're doing is saying to incorporate it for first reading,
Correct.
which we can change at
Correct.
first reading.
Correct.
or
Yes.
new people.
I make a motion to changes. Okay,
As discussed.
as discussed.
So,
Okay, wait.
Motion and a second to approve changes as discussed, which we just went over, those 4 items. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
And you'll have that back in front of you for a first reading.
And there will be another public hearing prior to second reading of the Oxford Council.
Item 8.
move to adjourn.
All right, motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.